In this module, you'll learn to bring your ideas together and create beautiful presentations super quick with the help of an AI tool called Gamma. We'll first introduce the tool, navigating through its simple interface and understand what you can do with Pro. Then we'll create a presentation with AI in various ways, either by text alone or generating through a prompt. Then we'll customize our whole Gamma experience with custom themes and fonts. Once you finish this module, you'll never go back to creating slides the old way again, saving you hours of time trying to make the perfect pitch deck. And so, without further ado, let's get started. Now, Gamma is an AI-powered platform for creating presentations, documents, and even websites without requiring design or coding skill. Its key features include AI-assisted content creation and image generation, automatic design and layout, interactive galleries and videos and embeds that you can put into your presentation, as well as data visualization with different charts and diagrams, pre-made templates to help you get started, and even import and export capabilities so you can bring in previous existing presentations and refine them through the platform. So as of recording this video, there are 3 pricing tiers for Gamma. The free version, which of course is $0, and then there is the Plus and Pro. The Plus goes for $10 if you pay monthly, but if you pay yearly, then it goes down to $8 per month. And then if you go to Pro, then you pay $15 per month on an annual fee, while if you pay monthly, then it is $20. The key differences between each is that, of course, you get more AI tokens or AI credits, essentially. And what AI credits works off of is if every single action that you do on Gamma essentially takes up a specific amount of tokens. So one may require 5 tokens, another may require 20 tokens. And this will depend on the type of action that you choose to take. So of course, just because you subscribe for a given plan, if you use up all your tokens, then you might need to recharge up. Also, as you can see, it actually provides, depending on the Plus and Pro as well, you get a specific amount of cards that you're allowed to create, which I'll explain in the next video. Like your typical PPT presentation, the way that Gamma works is off of cards, what's called cards. So you can just look at cards as individual sections, or essentially they are slides, but they can extend far longer than slides. They can go all the way down to a screen, or they can be as short as the header that you see up here. So you usually can create cards by going to the top card templates, and they have a bunch of templates you can choose from. You just work off of a drag and drop function. And so whenever I do mention cards moving forward, I'm essentially referring to each individual quote-unquote slide. So when it comes to creating a Gamma or a presentation, Gamma offers 3 different options that you can choose from. You can either paste in text, so if you already have all of the content ready for you, whether you generated them through an LLM or you've written them up yourself, and then you can also generate everything just from a single line prompt and then have the entire presentation created for you. Or you can import from an existing URL or PPT file that you may have. So all 3 options work, but I will show you each one by one. But first we'll start off with paste in text. So if I click paste in text, you're going to be welcomed to a simple, straightforward box. Right now for this presentation, I will create something on augmented reality. Let me get the text here. I'll paste this over. And then let's say I want some more text here. Boom. And then you'll notice that you have 3 options in presenting this. So presentation is your typical PPT slide formatting. Web page is if you know that you're just going to be sharing this online and the person is going to be viewing this on their desktop, most likely you do want to choose the web page version. And then a document can be formatted in a way where it's like a PDF document. But for now, we'll go with the presentation. We'll continue, and immediately you'll be welcomed to the configuration window. So here you have a couple of options. On the left, you have the settings where you can either choose to generate some more content. So if I were to just want to preserve this, I would just keep it at preserve. But if I want to be a little bit more flexible with the wording about it, or I want to adjust how it is presented as a whole, I would most likely do generate. Keep in mind, condense is just keeping things relatively short, but there can be some modification. Amount of text per card is just telling the AI how much each card should hold. If you want to keep things brief, you can choose that. If you want to keep things more detailed and each slide might be relatively long, you'll want to go with that as well. We'll just keep it to the default of medium. And then for write for, this is a whole target audience that you're creating this presentation for. So if this presentation is for people that know nothing about a given subject, you can indicate that right here. So the default here would be beginners with little to no prior knowledge of augmented reality. And then tone is, of course, do you want to keep it professional, friendly, clear, and concise? Maybe here I'll just say informative, clear, concise, friendly. I'll just add that here. You also have a plethora of different languages that you can choose from, which it will automatically translate. But for now, we'll just keep this at English. And then when it comes to the different images and formatting, images is just whether or not you want the images that are created in your presentation slide to be automatically pulled in association to what it is, or you want to generate images entirely. It might seem a little bit off of what is thematically there because it's going to be just using its AI image generator, or if you want to be pulling things from the web itself. So we'll just do something that's automatic first. And then the formatting, you have the option, as I mentioned earlier, to either go with presentation, web page, or document. You can also choose how high each card is going to be looking. So especially if you do something on a web page, you might want to choose something that might work for mobile as well. And then finally, the card width, you can adjust it here. When it comes to additional instructions, you might want to just give more clear context or instructions about your presentation to give the AI models a little bit more insight about what you're creating. And then once you've done that with the settings, you can choose card by card view. So let's say if I say add card and I'm going to just paste this part here. So then that way, visually, it kind of makes more sense to me. Let's say I want to add a little bit more slides. I can do that. And I want to do benefits of augmented reality here. So I just want to split this up here. And now I have 4 slides. So you're going to take notice that when it comes to freeform, it's a little bit different because freeform is just, you're just getting your ideas straight from pen to paper. You're just going to be typing everything out all as a single sort of document outline. But for the more visual people out there, I tend to leverage card by card instead. So once we're done that, you can just hit continue. You're going to notice here that there's a little number. Each action that you take, as I mentioned earlier, is going to cost you a given amount of credits. This presentation would take 40 credits. So if I want to get started with that, then I just press continue. And then voila, you can see there's going to be a couple of themes that are provided for you. So I want to make this a little bit more of a futuristic kind of sense. So let's say we do a soft cold, can kind of like go through the different formats. Let's go with electric. So if I want to go with electric, I can just start generating it from there. Of course, you can filter it from the different dark, light, professional themes that you want. You can also even shuffle the themes, but I tend to like dark themed ones. So maybe it's Aurora is nice. Yeah, let's go with Aurora. So if I want to go with Aurora, I just start hitting the generate, and then we just give it some time to generate the presentation slide. And right there, you're going to start seeing it in action. Everything that I had given the content on, it's already beginning to create it. Now, one of the fastest ways to generate using Gamma is just hitting the generate button, and you can create a presentation slide just by adding a quick description of what you'd like to create. So let's say I want to say an informative presentation on augmented reality. And you can then choose the different formats that you want, but you can also select how many cards you actually want to see in this. Let's make this 6 cards. And then if I press generate outline, then it'll do a little bit of its own work magic. And it splits it up into different cards, different key sections as well. You can also choose to add more if you would like, but I think this is good enough. So let's start. And at the bottom, you can, of course, choose the settings that you want in terms of whether or not you want it to make detailed information, medium amount, what kind of images you want to include in it, whether it pulls from the web or just AI created images. If I press continue, then it comes back to the whole presentation, how I want it to preview. Let's say I select this. Yeah, I just hit generate. And voila, it's already begun to create it based off of that single sentence description of wanting to create a presentation on augmented reality. So of course, you can adjust the text accordingly how you want, but this is just another quick option on getting started with Gamma without having to really even have your own information. So let's say you're using Gamma quite a lot and you don't want to keep repeating a specific theme. One thing that you can do is you can create your own theme by just going onto the main interface and going to themes. You can look at some standard themes that are already provided by Gamma. But let's say you want to create your own, you can just either import your own theme. So you already have an existing PPT that your company has used from a while back and you like the colors, you like the font. So you can import that theme directly straight in and the AI will do its best to try to follow and imitate that theme. Or you want to create a theme directly from Gamma itself. So then you can just build a theme and you have your own little custom builder. This is the preview that you'll notice. And then you can choose from a bunch of different sort of color palettes that you want to go with. So I want to go with something like this, or maybe I want to go with something more orange like this. In terms of the overall design, do you want it to be dark mode, light mode? You can choose different color palettes that you want. If you want to customize further, just go to customize and you can even adjust different colors so that it works in your flavor. Then you can even move into fonts. You can choose what fonts you want to play with as well. It gives you the given Google fonts provided. You can choose the different theme aesthetic. So perhaps you want it to be more standard or flat, outlined, maybe a soft grid encapsulated. Once again, with every option here, you have the ability to customize it further by going into the Customize tab, just really changing up the color of each button or each text, or how each corner is rounded out. Do you want it to be super round or just more of like a rectangular shape? Do you want drop shadows there? And you can even go to your logo, insert your logo, and you can even choose your theme name. And then once you finish it, you then have a theme you can choose from moving forward, so that as you're creating your presentation in the future, you can just choose this theme that you've created for yourself or for your company, and you don't need to rinse and repeat the whole process over again. If by chance there is a font that you don't see that you want and you use a specific font for your company or presentations that you tend to rely on, you can just go to custom fonts and upload your own font family. Now this would imply that you have the font in your folders or in your computer. Keep in mind, in order to upload your own personal font, you do need to be a pro user. But if you do have a specific font that you want to upload into it, make sure to download it from either the web and you can just upload it directly into the font family. And also, if you are wanting to get some ideas into how you want to go about creating your presentation, they have this little board called Inspiration, which the team have created. You can take a look at some of these different presentations that they've done themselves. I want to click this, and I can see how some of the Gamma team have created their own presentations. And this can give you some ideas on how you want to lay out or construct your presentations as well. They also, here you have the templates that they provided for different use cases. So for sales and marketing, let's say we want to preview this startup pitch deck. So then this person has presented it in this sort of manner where you have a bunch of nested tables and whatnot. Once you have your Gamma or presentation created, you're going to be welcome to this interface. And I really like the way that they laid out this interface. It's very clean, gives a lot of space to work with compared to the traditional Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Slides interface, which you'll see here. And I'll do a little comparison as I move forward along the way. So you'll notice at the very start of this, a typical Gamma, on the left, you have their slides that you can choose from. So you can just click between to kind of navigate your way through, or you can choose to look at it in a list view, kind of like an outline. You can also make this bigger or smaller if you don't want it to take up as much space. And this is the same as if you saw the slide menu on the left. So this part is relatively the same. The main differences here is that these menus on the right is your main key menu when it comes to your cards. So what kind of information and content you want to input into your cards, or if you want to add cards itself, You can add that by selecting from the card templates, or you can even add a blank card like so. You can choose the templates from here. So this little right menu here, where you can add images and video and audio and that kind of stuff, this is no different from the little menu you usually get at this top right, at the top right here. And then if you go all the way at the top, you'll see this little triple dot here. If you click down there, you can see your different version histories, the logos and colors, how you want your page to be set up. And so this is the principal menu here that you get with Gamma when it comes to a typical PowerPoint or Google Slides. That you can see that to be something similar to the very top navy here, right? Where you have a couple of your menus like to show your comments, the history, do different things like so, right? So the overall format is more or less the same. The only kind of difference is probably the main menu where you want to adjust your slides or cards. In Gamma, it would be on the right. Now, when it comes to using Gamma, some things that can help your workflow so that you can work a little bit faster, some shortcut keys that are worth noting are, if you hit plus, you're going to notice that it's going to be starting to do this little circle. And what this does is that essentially plus gets Gamma to generate or extend your text based off of wherever you're highlighting. So you noticed here earlier that this only went up to here, but as I hit plus, I'm essentially telling Gamma to add more text to the content, and then so it's going to be doing that based off of what it already has read. So it furthers this technology has the potential to revolutionize various industries, etc., And I can do this for any area. If I go here, plus, it's going to generate some new text as well. And I like how it sort of fades in as well. If you don't want to do that, you can also delete it, of course. And if you highlight over, you have your typical, text configurations that you can do. And that's one of the main kind of shortcut keys you have. You also have the main shortcut key of backslash. So with backslash, you have the option to be able to input anything that you would be able to select from the right. But then instead of always having to go to the right, if you just want to work directly from the card itself, you can just backslash and then you have an option. So let's say if I want to add a title, then boom, I can add a title like that. And this makes the workflow significantly faster and easier compared to things like Google Slides or PowerPoint, I feel, because sometimes, if you want to add a header or whatnot, you need to always move your mouse up and then kind of choose a header. But here you can just work directly from the content. Let's say if I want to add an emoji, then I can just choose from the emojis that I have. If I want to add a bullet point list, then I can just do that as well, right? So there's so many different options that you can choose from when it comes to the backslash. And then on the right, I just want to kind of go through the main features. So you have your card templates. So with your card templates, pretty self-explanatory. You have a bunch of templates you can choose from. Let's say you want to create a new card. You can do that by, as long as you put your mouse in between each card, you can either add a blank card like so, and then you can choose the templates from here. Or let's say you want to just look at the templates from the very get-go, and I say, I want to create a timeline view. So you can just drag and drop, and boom, you already have its template set up, and you can do this as well. You also have some smart layouts that you can choose from. For example, let's say I want to create a pyramid layout. So then this will create a pyramid within the card, and I can choose to either adjust this. If I hit this layout here, I can always delete this, and now I want this slide or card to have a pyramid layout. And this is super useful because you can always easily adjust it based off of different pluses, minuses that show up, as well as you have the basic blocks that you can typically include, such as your 2x2 table. You can even add this, let me just go back. You can even add images, so you can upload images. You can ask Gamma to generate images directly. So if I want to generate an image, then I can just give a prompt such as a woman wearing an augmented reality glasses, right? And I can choose different versions. If I want to choose the model that I want to play with, they have a bunch of different models that they work with. And if I just generate this, it will take up 10 credits. and just give it some time, and it'll essentially generate an image of what you want based off of the prompt that you provided. So here you go. I have a couple of images. I think this one is pretty cool. So then I just select that, and boom, like that, I already have an image inside the table. And of course, you have your options for that given thing, which are pretty self-explanatory in terms of everyone should be relatively familiar with these formattings. If you want to crop it, add comments, etc. And so you could do this the same way with adding images, but you can also add videos as well, different recordings, YouTube videos. You have a whole option to choose from. You can also embed different apps like a Figma file or an Instagram post or a tweet. And you can even add charts here as well. So you want to add a column chart. If I add a column chart here, then from here I can just start modifying the different numbers based off of the chart that I want to include. And each individual chart and diagram will most likely have its own option within it, right? So let's say if I give a 2x2 diagram, you're going to notice, okay, how do I want to adjust this accordingly, right? And you can adjust this, you can modify this and play around with it, like the length, the thickness of each arrow, where do I want it to start and end, and so on. So you can see that it seems pretty simple from the very beginning, and in a way it is, because a lot of it is just drag and drop and just adjusting settings. So the work itself is that you don't really need to do too much. You just need to select what you want, and then with each thing that you select, you have its own settings within it to be able to, modify the chart, diagram, table, or component the way of your liking. One thing that I do want to bring up, or all the different sort of / menus that you can insert into a card, is this thing called nested cards that you're going to notice here. So everything else is pretty self-explanatory. You have a numbered list, note boxes, warning boxes, etc. But one thing that I think isn't really too familiar for people that are coming from PowerPoint or from Google Slides is this concept called nested cards. So Gamma allows you to create cards within cards within cards. So this, you could think of it as a sort of like the movie Inception, right? So you can create a card within a card. You can create this card like this. Let's say I just copy or paste this over Enhance Gaming, right? But then let's say even within this card, I can add another nested card and even talk about, retail and commerce. I'm just adding any random information here from my thing. So if you then were to collapse this moving forward, you're going to notice that when you're having your presentation, this will come out as this sort of nested card, which the user can then expand on, take a deeper look into the card itself. I can expand this further and take a deeper look into this. So these is really useful for if you're trying to present concepts that go and want to include deeper layers of information within that given concept. So this is a super useful thing that I think is worth noting, this nested cards. Now that you're familiar with all the settings that you can do and all the things you can include in a single card, we'll look at the card experience in itself. So let's scroll down to something like down here. You're going to see that with every card that you highlight over, you get a bunch of menus that pop up on the top right here, as well as the top left here. So first and foremost, the menu here that you see is the typical comment and reactions. So this is when you're working with teammates and you want to add a comment to the given card like you would do in Google Slides. You might be able to add comments as well. You can leave your comments directly on specific elements that you highlight, right? You can add a comment here, or you can, if it's just, you don't want to add it on a specific text, you just want to add it on a specific section, and you can just press add. You can always see the add comment coming up, or you can even react to it. For example, if you're reviewing somebody's Gamma card, you can just add a reaction to it so that person knows, okay, this is good, this is bad, whatnot, right? So this is really great for fast revisions as well. And on the top, going over that, you have on the top right, add notes. So this section here is no different from the Google Slides. If you see the speaker notes, the speaker notes is essentially a way for you to add specific comments, not necessarily comments, but notes about the slide that can help you present further as you're moving forward. So this is the same thing here where you can just add notes, and here you can add notes like, oh, you can add additional notes that talk about how does AR work, or you might even be able to just generate the notes yourself by just putting, but of course, this will take up 5 credits. You see, this expands on this as well. On the top left, then you have the 2 other options. The triple dot here is essentially whether or not you want to actually create something new like this, right? Let's move this here, right? You can triple dot this to see all the different settings, right? Of course, these settings usually do show up if you just highlight over it, but you can just hit that by going like that. And then when it comes to card styling, you can just hit this and choose the different styles you want your card to look like. So right now there's no real specific layout, but let's say if I want to add a top banner, then I could just add this and it'll just add this banner to this card to make it look a little bit nicer. Let's say I want to have it still on the left or on the right, maybe even take up the whole thing, right? These are just different options on how to adjust your cards. You can even try to adjust the way that you want it to be accented in terms of the banner, or do you want to have it a gradient or not. You can make this a full bleed card so it just takes up the whole full space. Do you want it to be wide content or just normal sized? And then you can even add a backdrop background as well. And so these are just some of the options you have when it comes to modifying the card style itself. And then you have this other option called Edit with AI, where you, of course, each action will require a bunch of credits, but you can improve the writing, you can translate it, you can make it longer, be more specific. If it comes to the layout, you can make this more visual. So let's say this one is very text heavy, so I want to make this more visual. So let's try that out. If I hit that visual and I give it a few minutes, now it's going to add images to the actual card to make it seem more visual, right? So now you have a bunch of images there, and that's really cool way to kind of get your card set up in a faster, smoother way. And then every action that you take, you're going to notice this little menu that shows up here. You can either choose to go look at your original, which is no images at all, or the more visual. And if you accept it, you just hit done editing. If it isn't something that you enjoy, you make sure to give a poor suggestion or a good suggestion, and this will really help the AI model understand how to give better results in the future. So you're really sort of training it. So I seem to like this, so I'm just going to give done editing, and I just finish, and boom, voila, it's done. And this can be applied in the same way, where if I say, let's say, edit with AI once more, and I want to make this, let's say I want to simplify the language. So I simplify this, it's going to be simplifying in. Let's see what happens. And I think it did something. Let me just see. So this is where I really like the original, and this where you can switch between the original and simplify to compare. So if I say AR enhances gaming experience with immersive interactions, I choose simplified. AR makes games more immersive, like catching virtual Pokemon in the real world. So it's just simplifying the language, so it's a lot easier to understand. So I actually enjoy the way that they did this. So I was done editing, and I'm done. And you can apply this across the board for any card. Now, if you've got your presentation ready as it is, you can also go all the way up to the triple dots that I talked about earlier and check out the main key settings here. So you can look at your version history, look at the different timelines that you want. Let's say you made a mistake, but you can't really remember where. You can kind of revert back to what it was originally. So let's say I want to revert back to this. So I'll restore it, and then boom, I'll go back to what it originally was. Or you can even go look at your original source prompt. If you go to your original source prompt, it's going to take you back to the window that was this main configuration, the prompt editor. And there you can adjust your prompt and all the settings there. You can also adjust the different logos and color fonts that you want. Do you want the style of the overall presentation to look a little bit different than what you expected? Maybe let's go with electric, and it'll just change everything from the very get-go right here itself, and this looks a lot cleaner. You can also check out the page settings. So if you remember earlier, I was able to adjust different cards individually in terms of its width and how it looks, but this is, if you go to page setup, this applies those same settings to the entire presentation itself. So if I want to do full bleed cards, you're going to notice, oh, all the cards sort of don't have a box around it, but they bleed into the edges. And so this might look a little bit better when it comes to presenting. You can also do different alignments in which the text is supposed to be there. Let's say if I go back to the card settings, but I want it to just be a little bit wider, I could do wide content. And I could also constrain how big each card will look. Oftentimes, fluid is probably the best because it just gives more flexibility, but let's say you want it to be constrained to look a specific way, you can keep it at 16:19 and then choose what sort of look you want to give. Especially if this is a presentation that you know it's going to only be seen on mobile, perhaps you want to choose this setting here. Right, so you can choose from all the different dimensions you want. I usually tend to go with fluid just because it's a little bit more flexible. And then of course you can then choose the different backgrounds you want. Let's say I want some sort of cool little funky background like this, so I can just add that. Maybe even something like this. No, I don't like that. So I can choose the different backgrounds there, and then you can even look at a preview of how things would look. And finally, I think another cool aspect that I like about Gamma compared to PowerPoint or Google Slides is the analytics feature. So this is where you can view how people are actually viewing your presentation. So once you've actually shared your presentation to somebody, you can actually see how the Gamma presentation is being viewed overall, or you can even see where they're paying most attention to by going into card engagement, and it will give you a couple of numbers in terms of how much time was actually spent per card or how often it was viewed. And so I think this is super useful, especially when you're creating a lot of presentations and you're sending it out to a lot of people, because perhaps certain cards are not viewed or spent a lot of time on. So then you might be, maybe the reason for that is because the information is too confusing or the information is too simple, right? So this is where you can get a little bit more granular in your understanding of how each card is being looked at and then adjust that accordingly in the future. So this is a really helpful feature, I find, that can give you more insights into your presentation. Once you have your presentation ready to go, you can finally start to present. And one little quick thing I want to share with Present is you're going to notice that there are quite a lot more options that you would find compared to Google Slides or PowerPoint. So in this tab or full screen is the typical presentation view that you would get or you would do in any other present PPT sort of platform. But what I like about Gamma is they have this thing called presenter view, where if you click it, you're going to be able to present it the same way as normal. So you can share your screen with this specific thing. But the difference here is that, let me just show you here. If I were to hit presenter view, I get this little window here where I can add my different notes for each slide across and even increase the font so that maybe if I can't see that well, I can add my little presentation at this part, speak about ABC, right? And I can just add my little notes here so then I can keep this window on a separate monitor, or perhaps if I only have a single monitor, I can make it so that when I'm sharing it on a Google Meets or Zoom, I'm only sharing the presentation itself, but I have this presenter view open so that I can read through or even look at my notes whenever I need. And even in this presenter view, you have a little timer that you can start setting that can help you keep track of how long you're presenting for or where you're at in your presentation, especially if you're limited on time. So I think this presenter view is super helpful. It's a feature that I feel like Google Slides and PowerPoint don't do as great of a job at. So this really helps you walk through your presentation fluidly and seamlessly. And of course, the last point here I want to show you is at the bottom, you also have a share a follow link. So if you click that, you get a custom link that you can just share to other people. So sometimes if you don't even want to be sharing your presentation and you want people to follow through the presentation without just looking at your share screen, you can give them the link, this link itself, and they can then view your presentation on a separate window. So let's say if I open up Incognito and I just open this up, this is the window that they would be able to see. They're not going to be able to adjust anything, but it's just the presentation that looks pretty seamless and fluid itself. So I think this is something quite handy. Well,